Documentary named or titled The Letter is Kenya's selection.
Maybe why The Letter not ready for this for next year's awards?
Remember, it's a process. There is a criteria that one has to meet to be able to cut the threshold. And between Uradi and The Letter, the scoring found that The Letter was the most appropriate film as far as the requirements by the Oscars is concerned. So that is the film that was arrived at to represent the country.
How important are these awards and Kenya getting that chance to represent one film to the awards maybe?
Remember, in Kenya we have our own Kalasha Awards, and at the international stage we have many more other awards. But when we talk of the Oscars, this is the ultimate. And if a Kenyan film can win an Oscars, of course, that will come with many benefits to our country. One, we are communicating to the world that in Kenya, it's possible for you to produce a film that can be able to make change in the world. We are talking about job creation. We are talking about co-productions. We are also communicating to the world that we are open for business. So this is a very important component that will be able to help the country achieve all this, branding the country, attracting tourists here, also creating employment opportunities for our young people, and also telling our own stories for posterity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Timothy Owase, that's the CEO for Kenya Film Commission, giving us an insight of why the film or the committee has chosen The Letter, a film documentary which will represent the film industry in Kenya in the International Oscar Awards in April in 2021. Back to you in studio, Ben Njue.
Thank you. That was Suleiman Yeri, our reporter, talking to the CEO of the Kenya Film Commission. And it's good news because Kenya has already decided for now we are going to submit 2 feature films for consideration for next year's Oscar. And of course, as the CEO has said, actually will be telling the African story, and of course a big boost for tourism and Kenya branding if at all we are to win the Oscar Awards. Remember, there's the biggest award when it comes to filmmaking in the world. If you just joined us, this is News Check, and today we are discussing a consensus, how to reach consensus when it comes to matters BBI. Of course, a section of people, leaders and institutions have raised concerns talking about some of the issues they want highlighted in the final BBI report. And joining me now in studio is a political strategist and also a climate change expert. His name is Lemmy Muya. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Joy.
Perhaps to start us off, climate change expert, political strategist, what exactly do you do?
Well, I start with my professional background. Of course, I'm a geologist and currently a PhD student in climate change at the University of Nairobi. I'm also an Echoing Green Fellow from New York on matters climate change, and also a member of the UNFCCC Carbon Capture and Storage Working Group based at Bonn city in Germany. So when we come to matters politics, I can say I'm a progressive politician. I'm a social liberal Democrat. And of course, BBI is a very important political project that I believe will take this nation forward and create a lot of stability. But like all political projects, you know, their success is dependent upon consensus building. So I'm very delighted this morning to know that His Excellency our President and the former Prime Minister have given space for, you know, for more input into the very report, so that eventually you can have something that is somewhat uncontested, and that every person, every sector, every region in this country feels part of it.
Indeed.
Yep.
Welcome to the program. And you have seen what has transpired since the unveiling of the document at the Bomas of Kenya, NCCK, Law Society of Kenya. I'm not even talking about the governors or the senators, and even the MCAs have also raised concerns. IEBC also raised the same concerns, some concerns, judiciary also. And some also institutions have talked about people living with disabilities have also voiced their concern. The Pastoralist yesterday talking about, earlier they had talked about we need this and this and this, also factored into the document. But politicians, of course, they have the loudest mouth when it comes to this, and also actually the largest portion, because after Kenyans read this document, it's going to be taken to counties, and 24 counties must pass. It's a very crucial stage. That is why also we are going to talk about the input of MCAs in that. And you do remember Punguza Mzigo by Third Way Alliance did not meet the 24 counties threshold, and that is why it never went far. And of course, for now, after that is going to be taken to both the National Assembly and the Senate. But that's far much later. What we have right now is reading the documents. Perhaps we can start with what the governors talked about yesterday. They are really opposed to having a running mate of opposite gender.
Well, I concur. Personally, I concur with what the Council of Governors resolution has arrived at. That you know, in democracy, you just have to let the people. That universal sovereignty. You have to let the people, the voters, choose.
Yes.
So, personally, I would wish that we have a situation whereby we allow the people in the counties to choose their governors and their deputy governors without having to say that the governor can be a male, deputy governor can be female, because that way we should change, the rules of democracy.
Indeed.
So I concur fully with what the governors have said.
And perhaps to bring you up to speed with what exactly transpired yesterday during a meeting with the governors, let's first listen in to what they had to say about leadership and when it comes to picking a running mate.
The debate on whether governors should elect women as their deputies in the gubernatorial race emerged during a meeting of governors in Naivasha. The debate on whether governors should elect women as their deputies in the gubernatorial race emerged during a meeting of governors in Naivasha.
Apologies for that technical hitch. We will be getting back to that clip and perhaps to just touch on what the governors talked about. They talked about we want a democratic space in the country. Let governors have the opportunity to decide who their running mate will be. And of course, you had also concurred with the governors, but want to serve Kenyans on a different capacity, even if it's on a national level. Or they should just go home and give others a chance to do the same.
Politicians have a bigger microphone, you know that.
Yes.
And when they talk, their voice is booming over the common man down here. But I would say the BBI project, it's good at the very top, very nice, expanded executive at the very top for the stability of the nation, for obvious reasons. The post of a prime minister, deputy prime minister, two posts, his position, deputy president. That level is very important for the posterity of this nation, stability. But when you talk about initiating other positions down there and trying to cushion people who finish their term so that they can move to the next, I don't know what, at that level, I think that may not reason. Have been with the residents in Mavoko just before I came here. And I try to get some feedback about what they're thinking. And I stay with them most of the time as I crisscross the country. Yes. And I think the common feeling is that we don't need to have positions at those lower levels. Much less extra positions for the legislature, the MPs. And when I was talking with the young ones in Mavoko and also getting feedbacks from Kenyans also at large, just at a small sample, there's this feeling that, and actually just to add on that, His Excellency the President said that when there's a high level of unemployment and among the youth, that's a time bomb, and that the national government is taking that seriously. So then another friend of mine, a recent graduate, told me, Lemmy, well, who can buy my degree? I mean, they want to sell their degrees. And unfortunately, there are no retakes for degrees. Yes. So what does it tell you? That it's a high time. No, Kenya is not a very rich nation like the United States. Anybody in the United States who is not working is under social welfare. They are paid a minimum salary just to live a dignified life. Because sort of. Yes. So, but where can we start here? Instead of getting money to pay extra positions for MPs, senators, creating space for governors, another term or another level tier, I don't know, third tier in between the county and the national.
Or even to the national.
Yes. Why can't we get that money and maybe start just a small project? What we normally call UB4 among the youth, UBS, Universal Basic Salary. What about when we start with our graduates who are always, sometimes they graduate into nothingness and then start wondering what happened to our lives. So what about giving these guys who've invested so much, giving them loans to finish high school, university and colleges, getting this money that would have been used to pay this expanded legislature, to pay them some basic stipend every month, for them to start a small business or to get some, to get money to write a CV, just start off life, because we've invested so much in this college and university graduate. Just like a pilot, the universal health care that the president started, it's taking off in the counties. There are little hitches here and there, but then it's a good thing it started. What about, taking care? Tumesema pesa ya kwa wazee. Na hiyo stipend inafanya kazi. Wazee wanafurahia sana huko mashinani ukipata. What about these young fellows whom we've invested so much? So those are opinions that are not only mine, but that have been filtered in the ground, and you can feel it when you interact with the young guys. So those are some of the things that we need to put in this BBI, expanded BBI project, so that then, if for sure the unemployment in this country among our educated young and even the other hustlers who go chini is a time bomb, like the Excellent says, then we need to invest in that. And what a good time, to work on something when we are talking about the BBI in that regard.
Indeed. And we're going to touch on something that very crucial they talked about. They talked about, even if you're talking about the BBI, let us implement the 2010 Constitution to the letter, because there are so many things that have not been followed to the letter, and that is why we also have the BBI report. But we will be delving into that. But right now,
to the fore, and also appoint a male governor. These are one of the issues. This is one of the issues that the leaders are not agreeing to, and also the members of County Assembly are not agreeing to the fact that the BBI report is proposing that for a candidate to vie for the MCA seat should have a degree. And remember, this report will have to go through 24 counties for it to pass in these 24 counties by the members of county assemblies for it now to move to parliament. So, Troy, will be looking at representation. Who are the leaders who have made their presence here at the Naivasha and Ashipai resort in this meeting that is aimed at bringing the leaders together and also raising their concerns in regards to the BBI report and way forward. Apart from representation, Troy, we will also be looking at the resolution that will come from this meeting. Remember, I mentioned earlier we're expecting His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handshake partner Raila Odinga to be able to talk to these leaders in regards to the BBI proposals. And then we'll also be looking at the reactions from the leaders. So, Troy, the mood right now here is the governors are seated in a closed-door meeting, and they're deliberating on one or two issues on the proposals that have come with the BBI report. And also we are having the county assembly leaders who are also here in Ashipai resort to raise their concerns in regards to the BBI report. So, Troy, will be keeping a close eye from this end, and we'll be talking to you as events unfold. Troy.
Thank you so much, Irene Chuma Odim, coming to us live from Naivasha, where President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handshake partner Raila Odinga are expected to grace the meeting there with the Council of Governors and, of course, the County Assembly leaders in regard to the BBI. And incidentally, we were talking about the governors, and right now they are seated and are also deliberating before President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handshake partner actually make way to Naivasha. In case you just join us, this is News Check. Remember, we are live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and also on our KBC app. At KBC Channel 1, at Bentro Njue, at Hon Lemi Muya. Those are our Twitter handle in case you have a question, suggestion, or even where you are watching us from, and I will be glad to sample some of your responses. Perhaps to go back to our discussion, Lemi Muya, political strategist and also a climate change expert. You said you also vied for a top seat, so at least for the governorship. So I'm quite sure you're very conversant perhaps with the laws that govern counties and stuff. Earlier on, I had talked about governors. They talked about we want full implementation of the 2010 Constitution, because some of the issues that are being brought out, many people don't realize they are in the 2010 Constitution. Is just that they have not been implemented to the letter, the 2/3 gender rule being one of them, among others.
Well, first of all, let me start by saying that when you hear the governors are convened and the MCAs at NCPI in Naivasha, and they are meeting His Excellency the President and the former Prime Minister, you know, when you get to see the leaders of the nation coming together, all the leaders at all levels, and trying to build consensus, speak with one voice in unity, that very time God commands a blessing. So it's written in the scripture. So that's good news. It's juicy news that they are in together there. Be that as it may, the 2010 Constitution, you remember somebody said tupitishe tubadilishe baadaye. Much of it is, you know, was much of it was responsive to the current needs of the nation at that time. But you see, this is a very dynamic and live document that can be edited and amended, and you know, we don't live for the Constitution. The Constitution is meant to serve the Kenyans. So Kenyans would be free at every, and I won't be surprised if in the next 10, 15 years or 20, we are at this again, trying to see where we, you know, panel beat a little bit. So much of the 20 Constitution was said to be good. But now what you're doing now is the most important thing. So I don't see why, I don't see why people should topento, not try to stop this good momentum by saying, let's bring that rigid document. So if much of what was good in the 2010 Constitution has been implemented, and there's something remaining that is nice, well, there's no harm in just saying, let's embrace this for now, but let it be part of this current dispensation and project, inclusive project of BBI, because for sure, the BBI is capturing the national psyche, and it's a document and a project that aligns well with the Kenyans. And first of all, it's meant for the stability, political stability and peace of this country, because without peace and stability, all the other issues will just fall by the way.
That's true, because actually it's called the Building Bridges Initiative. In Naivasha, the leadership of county assemblies are there, the governors are there, and they are two groups that I can comfortably say they were very happy with the document when it talked about 15% to 35%, a big boost to devolution, and that is exactly what we want. But they have been concerned about a lot of wastages, and of course, governors always, we have seen even some of them have ended up in court. So some have argued that actually we still have to relook on in terms of wastages and of course the wage bill.
Well, without getting sucked into the political intrigues between the national and the county government, let's just look at the facts.
Yes, the 15 to 35%.
Yes. Many people are for the increment of that amount, even to 45% if possible. Because then, the county government, the new dispensation started in 2013. So it's just like our country that was born in 1963. At the very onset, there were gaps. So we've seen those gaps in 2013, the FAD to 2017. But I can say that money that was sent to the counties, the corruption part notwithstanding, because again, ESCC is there to look into that. That money has done a whole lot of good deal. You know, the devolving those resources has really opened up many parts of this country. We just need to move around, like I'm sure you've done, Njue, and some of us, to see what devolution is doing. You know, hospitals, people having, projects at their very low level. So, people, MCAs and their voters and the residents discussing about, very feederals that will not be seen from the level of the national government. So they're eliminating the very small projects that are needed and are very important to the grassroots and helping on NGOs. So I believe that money should be increased. Yes, if there's corruption, there's an agency, national agency that looks into that. But of course, as we move on, most of these teething problems will be ironed out. And for sure, I would wish one day, God willing, in 2022, if I'm elected Machakos governor, I would wish that we have more resources, because there are a lot of projects that can be done, just to build on what has been done. Because sometimes the money, you realize that the function is devolved. But I don't know whether somebody did tweaking to check whether the money that comes trickles down to the county is not tantamount with what that function dictates in terms of expenses. Sometimes you realize, as a governor, you have a function that is devolved. You are answerable to the wananchi at the county level, but the funds that are within your hands to respond to that function or that service delivery, I mean, it's less than what is needed there. So sometimes you end up suffering in the middle, and then when you're told that there's wastage, so it's very frustrating sometimes. Let's give credit to these governors, but we don't condone corruption. I mean that's why ESCC is there to deal with them.
And still on the MCAs, they talked about the 5% that for the MCAs, of course, to run development projects in ward level. They talked about the 5%. There's a gray area in how that the money, the 5%, what exactly it will be.
Well, right there, there's a conflict. There's always, politicians are elected and given a mandate, and if they are not checked well, and that's why we need people who are elected MCAs, the ones who are running mates. They need to check the ones who are there. At every level, ultimate power corrupts. When you put somebody somewhere and they're not answerable and they have a lot of power, they abuse it. So politicians, I don't know why the legislators, be it the MCAs, the MPs, senators, want to be, taking care of service delivery, because that's conflict of interests. They are there to check the current government. But I have no problem in them being involved, because they are leaders and very important opinion leaders at that grassroots level. It's important that if they work out with the county government and then we get something, well, if they want to entrench it in the BBI, well, I don't know. But if there's an arrangement besides the county level that can have some kitty at the constituency, the ward level, then that would address, that is okay. But let the MCA not be the ones, controlling the funds, because that is conflict of interest. It clash. It's a legislator. He should oversee the one who's implementing that. If he wants to implement, let him jump to the executive side. If he wants to be a Mheshimiwa who is overseeing the government, let's say that. But the essence, the whole idea of getting some funds at the ward level is very important. That level, from the national, then county, and the ward level. Because then you realize again, just as much as some projects may not be visible at the national level as they are at the county level, at the ward level there are some very, I don't call them minute, but small in size, but very important projects, development projects that can be addressed at that level, that the governor will be overwhelmed, by issues when he tried to take care of that very, grassroots cascaded small project. So I would support that wholeheartedly, that we need to have a kitty also at the world level that will address development projects at that particular,
but not controlled by the
not controlled by the MCS, but they have a say. In terms of when there's public participation on prioritizing which projects, because these are opinion leaders. So and these are all projects are political. So it will be in anybody's interest, whoever administrates that fund, to also consult widely, you know, to get the views of the MCA and the people, and then at the end of the day, the majority carries the day. If the majority says we want to do this, of course, the views of the MCA included, then let them prioritize that. But essentially, that fund would be important, and it will help grassroots Kenyans at that level greatly.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And of course, when we come back, we're also going to look at other issues raised by governors and MCAs, and also we're going to look at issues that were raised by the senators and other leaders and other, of course, other stakeholders, including people living with disabilities. We've also heard that the NCCK, the IBC have raised concerns of talking about let us have a consensus so that we may forge forward. And in case you're joining us, this is News Check. Let's first take a break, but we will be back. I'm, of course, joined by Lemi Muya, who we are trying to find a consensus when we discuss the Building Bridges Initiative report.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more, like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Coca-Cola, taste the simple joys.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Huo umekaa unakaa guilty vile ulikuwa na zile file na ukawa unazificha.
You are going to regret it.
Naona ni kama unaweza kunifanya kama moja hizo project zako small na mimi sifurahi hiyo story.
Girlfriends do stuff for their boyfriends all the time.
Decent people call to cancel on you. Well, I'm glad we didn't meet because you're obviously a waste of time.
She's so expensive, okay. Nigga say why number buda boss do my kit. Now do me pia na ya kutoa. Line already, it's time already. A line already, it's time already. Make I tell you what you looking for a bullet. Baby, come release your body, body, yeah. Back it up right away, right away.
Gang. Rada chafu nikishikaga hizo chafu bana shika shash pale bedroom kila siku bash hini leche ndakikomba.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
How could you even think of leaving your mother alone there? Don't you see, your mother could have wandered out into the streets or somewhere else.
How could I help him escape when I have problems running my own life?
Tell that to the police when they come looking for you. Oh my. He's dead. He's already dead. Because of her, I had to leave Tijuana. Because of her, I got kidnapped. And because of her, I lost Fabiola Valente. Hey! Hey! Help me! Hey!
But swear to me you won't say anything to anyone. Because if you tell anyone, Francisco will send me to prison.
El paraíso
In Love with Ramon.
Welcome back. This is News Check. My name is Ben Troy Njue, and I'm being assisted by Susan Thuku, who is on the bottom of your screen, and we are also with Lemmy Muia, who is a political strategist and also a climate change expert. And we are discussing BBI initiative report, but how to build consensus. A lot of people have raised concerns. They are valid, and that is why actually the whole conversation of the BBI is still ongoing in Naivasha. Everywhere for leaders talking about the BBI, we want this, we want that, and that is what we want, to build consensus. We were talking about some of the things that were raised by MCAs, and of course they want, because the BBI proposes that we have ministers who are members of parliament. The MCAs said, okay, fine, no problem. Let's also do the same in the county level. Let us have MCAs to be the CECs.
Well, at the end of the day, everybody is entitled to their view.
Yes.
If you don't mind, I can just see what an MCA friend of mine has just said. Hapo kwa MCA umetugonga. But you see, it's
Yes.
not me. Because then we cannot, nobody can have it two ways.
Yes.
Cannot have your cake and still, have it, you know. So, if you're an MCA, you are a member of the legislature, and we know the duties of these Waheshimiwa.
Yes.
It's oversight, you know, and the other one, and the other, the three. So one of them is not about implementation of development projects. That's the work of the executive. That's why they are there to check, you know. So you asked me about MCAs wanting to have
part of the executive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then that's a very interesting discussion right there, discourse. Remember, in this country, in the whole dispensation, in the national level, we used to have ministers in parliament, right?
Yes.
Then we changed that and say, no, get them out of parliament. Now we won't take them back. No problem. I mean, at the end of the day is, you know, there are many ways of doing the job good. It doesn't always follow that you have to pass this way or no other way, you know. So if that gathers momentum, and majority of Kenyans feel that way, then why not? We can have CECs who will be appointed. I mean, we can have MCS who will also be appointed ministers, so that they are in the cabinet of the governor, I mean the county government. So I don't see any problem, because that's just the same model. It's the same continuum, like in the national level, whereby we used to have ministers.
Yes.
You know, MPs who are appointed by the president as ministers. So then they knew how to handle, you know, to jungle the two levels of responsibility. Is the minister at the national level, but when they go to their constituency, they are still members of parliament. So they know how to balance that. And I believe also MCAs have what it takes for them to also do the work of, be a representative of their ward at the same level, perhaps be the CEC for roads for the whole county. I believe most of them, a good number of them, have what it takes to be appointed to that level, and they can balance that. So if that opinion gathers momentum and it's bought by the majority of Kenyans, why not? I mean, it's a good idea. And if at some point in the future, if it doesn't work, again, this is a living document, like we say.
Yes.
You know, we can work on, we can tweak it at that level, at that point in time. Yeah.
There are some pundits who have argued that the MCAs, the senators, and the MPs, they have, of course, they have the power, because the bill, the amendment bill, has to go through all the county assemblies at least Ghana 24, and of course back to the National Assembly and the Senate.
Can I tell you
people
something?
People are arguing that perhaps that these leaders might even blackmail, might use blackmail to get what they want, because they have the power when this bill will be taken to the county assemblies and of course to the 2 houses of parliament.
Can I tell you, I've never been a member of parliament, but can I tell you something that I've observed?
Yes.
When these guys go there to pass laws and it moves very fast, it's not like something they have just initiated there. They had kamkujis. You have heard the kamkujis?
Yes, yes.
So what you're seeing is it in Shapai?
Yes.
You know, you talk aside, you gather momentum, you build momentum. The moment they agree, led by the president and the former prime minister, and then the county governors, when they agree on a certain direction, I don't think they will blackmail. I mean, if they agree, a gentleman agreement, brainstormed, consensus is built, then that thing will just go to the ward levels and pass. Because at the end of the day, I mean, to the county assemblies and get passed, because that county assembly is made of MCAs who belong to political parties. And if the leader of ODM, for instance, the leader of WIPA, the leader of Jubilee, you know, he talks with his troops at that, you know, at the party level, I don't see anybody flying in the face of what the party leadership, I mean, if any, just a very minute number. So I don't see that risk much, in as long as there's that consultation before that thing goes to the county assembly. Yeah.
And the MCAs, still on the MCAs, they have talked about, actually, let's first of all begin. Are we asking too much from the BBI report? Remember, there were 9 issues, contentious issues that were supposed to be looked into by the BBI. And of course, divisive politics, ethos, looking at issues to deal with corruption. But looking at some of the demands that we have seen, are we asking too much from the BBI report? MCA is talking about we want proper facilitation at the assemblies just like MPs. We want this just like MPs. We want this just like MPs.
You know, wahenga, the Waswahili say, Mwambagoma vuta kwake. So there's an open window now for people to kind of bring issues that feel matters in their sectors. So it's obvious that, and it was expected that all sectors and you know, leadership and people will bring issues, what they need addressed. But at the end of the day, we can only consult so much. At some point, we might find ourselves going round in circles. So the BBI was to be passed, the report as it was, but it took the wisdom of the president and the prime minister to open this space that we are seeing now. But then we need also to move quick, because then we cannot have 100% representation and satisfaction. But then we can have something that everybody feels they are part of it. You know, some cannot be 100% happy, but you can just be happy. So at some point we just need to pass that, as long as majority of the members of the Kenyans feel they are part of this. So if we don't mind if some 10% of the issues are not tackled by this BBI. Perhaps that will be space for other leaders that will come out, emerge in this country in 30 years or 20 years, who will handle that. But most important for this country is peace, because then if we don't have political stability and peace, how then will we be sure to live to see another 10, 15 years to come together and amend a constitution? We'll be, I mean, if we become a banana nation, and I don't see that happening, because we have leaders who really love this country. So let's just work with something that is responsive to the needs of the people now. But first and foremost, like you said, the BBI started as, you know, those 9 articles?
Yes.
But most crucial and very important, besides corruption and the others, let's have an expanded executive for the political stability of this nation. Those positions are put there. You know, the deputy president, the prime minister, the 2 deputies, that are very important, because then that inclusive and each region wanting to see, to feel part of the country, is very inherent in the hearts of Kenyans. So
and
that
talking on that, the expanded executive, it's good you brought it up. There are some people who feel that the 5 big positions, as the president, the deputy, the prime minister, and the 2 deputies, it's not very clear how we are going to achieve a national unity with those five 5 positions, Kenya being a very diverse country. Diversity in politics, diversity in religion, diversity also in political ideologies, and also the population.
I'll flip that question again.
Yes.
If you were to run this country, Njue, and you come from a region, say the Ma, do you know there are enough qualified people that you can appoint as ministers from just the Ma community? Ministers and every senior position in this country. They are enough. But just the fact that we have enough qualified people from one region of the country, does it augur well when it comes to, representation is symbolic. Every region, there has to be that diversity. We have to be in rhythm with the diversity of the country. God gave us a very diverse nation. And then the national level must reflect that to a certain degree that is enough to ensure stability. When you expand this executive, the national level, the executive to include these positions, definitely will not have 2 leaders from the same community in the country occupying 2 senior. So what you're saying that is people will begin to see that shared prosperity we talk about, because then this is symbolic. So the national leadership must reflect the cloth, that fabric of the nation. And we know that we may not have everybody there, but at least we can have a number that will help the country see that, everybody feels part of it, or almost everybody. Then again, you can have time. At the other time, somebody else can be, then there are the ministers right there. So, I think you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
That for the national stability and peace, the
we need the diversity,
is core. Yes. Because then that will let us live to see many years for us to say, let's work on this constitution, let's see what can be responsive to the needs of the country, maybe 30 years away at that time. But if there was no peace, and then the country went to the dongs, and that can't happen, because I said our leaders love this country. So we'll not have the opportunity to amend some of these things. So at the end of the day, there's what comes first and what can be done later. Yeah.
Indeed. And let's also focus on devolution. And one of the things that the BBI is going to do is that, of course, it is strengthening devolution, not only for the money, 15 to 35%, but it's strengthening devolution. And we are also talking about the Senate, strengthening the Senate. You've seen and you've had many calls. Actually, they didn't even start now on how we can make Senate the upper house and the National Assembly perhaps the lower house, so that we may strengthen devolution in the counties. What is your take on that?
Well, the Senate has its place in this country, because then it was an automatic creature, creature when we came with the county governments. So there had to be somebody taking care of the interests of those guys.
Yes.
Sometimes when that sharing of the revenue and what we need, they have to pass those bills. That house is very important. Well, the dynamics of wrestling between who is senior between the National Assembly, Parliament, and the Senate. Well, that one can play on. But then when we
talk of devolution.
Yes. The Senate has its place on matters devolution. But let the National Parliament also be there to check the national government. I think those roles are very clear. And some of these gray areas, those are areas that are lawyers and some of these people who have been in politics for so long, with wisdom, they know what works. So the gray areas will also be there, but they can be ironed out, legally. Yeah, so that then at the end of the day, we know who is where. But then I think also in the Constitution they say, the relationship between the national and the county government is that of cooperation. So with cooperation, we can iron out these gray areas. But that grand standing, like in the 3 arms of government, the legislature, the judiciary, and the nation, they don't, the executive, they don't exist in isolation. But then there's that matter of consultation and cooperation that makes now this engine that runs a country run smoothly. So grant standing will not work, but then I can say, just finish, that Senate should be there to stay. Because then it has to take care of devolution. And devolution, we've tested it for the last, I don't know, is it 7 or 8 years? And it works for this country. We can only make it better. So it's, and as far as we have county governments, Senate is there to stay.
And let's look at the independence of institutions. There are calls for actually IBC to be independent, and so should be the judiciary. And of course, you know that the issue of the ombudsman actually brought a lot of heat. How can we achieve this, if at all, perhaps some of the clauses are talking about the executive actually having a hand in independent institutions like the IBC, the judiciary, the office of the ombudsman, something like that?
Well, the IBC should be independent, just like the anti-corruption and other very important key institutions for this country. Remember, at one time, the Prime Minister said he may not be, the former Prime Minister, I remember him saying clearly may not be there in the next, so many years. But at least it will bequeath him and the president and other important, progressive leaders. They will bequeath this nation with institutions, not individuals, but institutions. And these institutions don't work in isolation, like I said, but they have their core mandate. There's that core mandate that they anchors them in a particular space in our society. But then there's no harm in the EACC reaching out to the DCI, to work on some crime that in areas that there's interplay, or overlapping areas. So, but at the end of the day, this country will succeed. Our shared prosperity, like we say, will continue to enjoy that when we have strong institutions. So IBC should be independent. The anti-corruption should be independent. The DCI should be independent. All other areas should be independent. But then, at the end of the day, we have one president in this country. And he has the responsibility to take care of the nation. So, having said that, everybody in their own space, but cooperation and consulting, then the engine will move smoothly.
Indeed. And let's shift focus a bit from politicians and talk about some of the other groups that have raised issues and concerns because of the BBI report. Yesterday, Honorable Raila Odinga was with the Pastoralist community, and they also had raised concerns about a week ago, but yesterday they spoke with one voice talking about, we have had a discussion with one of the handshake partners and we are going to be supporting the BBI because some of the things that we have talked about, they will be relooked into. Perhaps if that clip is ready, kindly Zippy, if it's ready, we can have a listening.
Pastoralists support PPG. BBI. The entire region.
At no time did the governors give me any kind of ultimatum. Now, I don't know where the media got this impression that I was given any ultimatum. I was not given any ultimatum by the governors. We have had a very cordial conversation with these representatives. This was the fourth meeting we've been having with them. And there is quite an agreement over many issues.
It's generally very basic issues that has no controversy or does not disadvantage anybody in the country. It's just more about our issues that we feel needed to be highlighted, and that has been well taken.
BBI has a lot of gain for us as pastoralist communities. We cannot, as pastoralists, oppose BBI. We must be on board. We are in government. We must sit on the table and discuss and eye on those issues the same way other communities in this country are discussing those issues.
That yesterday when one of the handshake partners, Raila Odinga, did talk about having a meeting with the pastoralist community. Of course, we've seen the leaders. We have the governor. We also have some senators flanking Raila Odinga. They're talking about governors have not issued any ultimatum to him or his partner. President Uhuru Kenyatta. Of course, why ultimatum? Of course, we have been blamed as the media for coming up with that statement.
Well, if sometimes when you don't feel heard, you shout. Actually, in the house, just an example. In my house, I have a daughter. When she doesn't feel invested, she'll make sure that she's heard. But when I get her invested, and she feels part of it and invested, she's calm. So this is what is playing out here. That, you know, the guys up there in the northern corridor perhaps felt left out a bit. And also, sometimes it depends on what their leaders say. But when the former Prime Minister took time and a one-on-one with them, they hammed out the issues. So they felt invested and part of it. The county governors, again, well, they have to start from somewhere. But now when they felt that the initiators of the BBI, who is the former Prime Minister and the President, have responded and listened to them, and like, you know, they went into a round table, come, let us discuss. It's a give and take, not have 100% of what you want. So then the resolution is what you've just seen. That sisi, kuna mahali walimpatia ultimatum.
Yes.
So hiyo ni creation ya media.
Yes.
That's a good escape route anyway. But for sure, the county governors started by you know, saying this
hard stance. Let's not call them ultimatum.
Yes,
hard
it's just
stance.
a standing point.
And actually, they're not the only ones, because the pastoralists, I remember in a presser they had talked about we need additional resources, and they wanted the BBI to address historical injustices. Can you kindly comment on that? The pastoralists talking about we need additional resources in the northern frontier. We also need to address historical injustices, some of which are also enshrined in the Constitution.
That's right. And like we said, it's not that easy to get everything solved instant. You know, this BBI is also not instant coffee, like they say. You know, it's a working formula that is trying to respond to our current needs, and of course, not trying to fix anything that will happen in the future. You know, many years will come, but we only need to be there as a nation. You know, as a nation, growing family from what they have built. So then handle other fringe issues as time goes by. It's true, there has been historical injustice in some parts of this country. So when these leaders iron out their issues to the very initiators of the BBI, and they felt listened to, even if not everything is solved at that moment, they might be willing to say, yes, 50% of our issues have been addressed now. And we've said 50% can be handled later. So it's true. You know, the expansive northern corridor of this country, it's not as developed as other places. But since 2013, when you go to Abaswin, when you go to Wajir, when you go to other areas, Garissa, you begin to see, you know, infrastructure building up. And that cannot be done in a day. So it's important that there's these funds they were calling Equalization Fund.
Yes.
So those provisions, again, can handle those issues, because then we are dealing with two very experienced leaders here, the former Prime Minister and the President.
Yes.
So they know what you're saying, and without interfering with, you know, with the whole document, they know how to provide for what you're saying. So I think we are in safe hands.
Indeed.
And at the end of the day, everyone must feel listened to and respected.
Yes. Yeah. And the President will have a meeting with the governors and, of course, county assembly leadership, right? Yesterday, we saw ODM leader Raila Odinga meeting with the pastoralist community, looking at all the quarters that have raised concerns. Do we need such sittings, because people living with disabilities have also raised their concern? Of course, I told you earlier, IBC, other institutions, of course, have also raised concern. Should we have meetings that, like the one Raila Odinga had with the pastoralist community yesterday?
Yes, because BBI is a window of opportunity to fix our country. So they should take us in as much as possible.
But that could take a lot of time.
As much as possible. If, you know, there's always a limit. You know, the law of diminishing returns. You might get to a point whereby then again, you might start to torpedo the whole thing. So, yeah, all sectors of the community, peoples with disabilities, yes, all other special needs, that, possibly, and if they can come together, caucus and present a common front, they should be listened to. I'm tempted to say also the matters of climate change. Okay, there's an act in the country, but also we might think that it may not be very important to get it involved in BBI, but it's so important because then when you look globally, this is an existential threat.
Yes.
We need to move with speed, just like other nations of the world. We are not offenders, like they say. We know who polluted the world. But then, experts have been projecting that we might have a short window beyond which catastrophic events might just, catch up with us. Just imagine an hurricane of category 5, God forbid, crashing to our coastal belt, coastline. I mean, so matters climate change as much as it's not the developing nations,
yes,
including Kenya, that are to blame. We need also to be, be involved in it because then the repercussions are catching us up with us. In fact, some of it is biting, but there's humanity might be at risk because if you get to some point, and this is scientifically proven, we have a short window to fix these matters. So we might work on the BBI, yes. Have peace in the country, but what about if you are crushed? I mean, by scorching heat, by rains,
and of course we've seen
which nobody has
a lot
seen.
of hunger. We've seen a lot of.
So again,
yes.
we disappear. So we need to have some of these important issues. I don't know.
Because actually, what is being talked about mostly, I can tell you for a fact, is the expanded executive. That is what is actually fitting into a lot of time and actually taking priority, as you've just said.
Yes.
And perhaps let's first of all look at civic education. Right now, Kenyans have been urged to look at the document, read it, and then understand the document before the other processes of county assemblies are there. But looking at civic education, our leaders right now, I believe they should be on the forefront to make sure that every Kenyan knows exactly what the BBI report is. Even suggestions that they should have thought of translating the document into languages of Kenya so that each and every Kenyan can have the opportunity to read and understand the contents of the document.
That might be a long shot because then I believe a very big number, large majority of Kenyans understand Swahili.
Yes.
So when the leaders go and when they go, it's what we call civic, sensitization and education. When the leaders at the level, they know what is in the document and the highlights. So it should be provided because most of the Kenyans are tech savvy. They can just read PDFs from their phones, things like that. But for the rest that may not have that opportunity, in the far-flung areas of the country, perhaps when our leaders go down there, they can translate it into a language they understand. But then rest assured, I don't believe it's every Kenyan that has the patience and the privilege to sit down and read. Is it a 50-page document or something? So it has to be at the end of the day highlights of what is important and done in a way that it's appealing to them. So leaders here, actually, that's why they are leaders. They have a key role to play in terms of popularizing this, making this document popular amongst the Kenyans, because it's the views of Kenyans anyway.
Yeah, because the civic education has been also mentioned.
Yes, for validation. So, but then the way it's presented, it depends. Will determine whether Kenyans will be interested in, getting to know much of it. Yeah, but a good number of Kenyans who are tech savvy will have been reading this document.
But the civic education needs to be scaled up, and especially, of course, in places like churches, so that each and every Kenyan has an idea of what the document is talking about. And perhaps Kenya indeed is watching. A messenger, Amadi Clifford, watching from Bondo, saying he likes the show. Victor Masiaya, watching from Malago Siaya. Stanley, somewhere you haven't said where you're watching us from, but you were following. Then we have John Lentukan from Samburu, also Nyakwar from Kisumu City, and also we have Vita enjoying Channel 1, Vita Magomele from Malava. Of course, they are a lot of them. But of course, if you have any suggestion, question, we will be glad to sample them as we continue the BBI debate. And indeed, in case you've joined us, this is News Check. We are tackling the Building Bridges Initiative report, and a lot of people have raised concerns, and sections have raised concerns. Of course, it's one thing that we need also to be building those bridges so that we may come up with one document that will be supported by all Kenyans. And of course, those additions and others are talking about some subtraction, like the governors, of course. They talked about they want the power to have the power to fire the deputy governor. That the gray area that the Constitution created, because the role of the deputy governor is not clearly defined even in the 2010 Constitution.
Well, that's their wish, but I believe deputy governors should be empowered. They should, when they say they are the principal assistants to the governors, I think that should stay. But of course, leaders sometimes, there's also that friction between number one and number two.
Indeed, and we saw that play out in Machakos County the first term. We also had the same thing happening in Embu the first term.
Yeah, yes. Those, push and pull back and forth, because when the deputy feels humiliated and kind of, squashed and pushed to a corner, they will fight back. And these are politicians. So I think the deputy governor's position, perhaps we can look into
giving him a portfolio or something.
Yeah, something like that. I've never had a friction between, this might be a crazy, wild thinking, but I've never had a friction between the president and the deputy president of the United States. So, I mean, we can buy best ideas and then scale them down. See what is making these guys, we never heard of Mike Pence, or the other guys. So, can we buy from the best practices and then tweak it to our level and see what works? Because at the end of the day, as I told you, as things are at the moment, I wouldn't wish to be anybody's deputy's government, because I know what is there for the deputies and what awaits them. And these are political games, and you have a governor who has the wherewithal of, and he can reduce you even to lesser than a sweeper in the county. These are serious.
There's so much power being wielded by the governor.
So we need to have the deputies have some space that will keep them calm, but of course assist the governor in submission, helping them meet his manifesto or her manifesto. But at the moment, kind of when there's a little disagreement, then the deputy governor suffers, and they are reduced into almost nothingness in that county. You won't believe.
Back to devolution, and I will say it again, because from 15 to 35% was a big, actually some are calling it the carrot that the BBI is dangling for MCAs and governors. And we indeed are going also in the devolution. We are in the BBI, you're talking about adding some positions, the MPs, adding some constituencies in the report. Looking at the current wage bill, is that something that we should explore right now?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because it's already bloated. It's already we are overwhelmed by paying. So I don't think any Kenyan, I'm not saying the MPs, the MCAs, or the leaders, I'm saying, a common mwananchi down there. I don't think any, and if there are any, just very few, would want to see extra seats for MPs for now. I know there's the argument, of, some constituencies are already, in terms of population,
yes,
they are already so large. Well, that's a matter to be discussed, to be handled by the IEBC on an ongoing concern, Not like in the nation we just had a lot of, because at the end of the day, most of the people who come up with these proposals and the leaders with big microphones, they want them to have space to reward, guys who can be loyal to them, and but sometimes most of these positions are exploited. There's this argument that I may want to bring it here. But there's this argument that some leaders just appoint, nominate positions of people who do not represent anybody. And they just stay here in Nairobi, hovering around, doing nothing, you know, earning a salary. So that money is what we are talking about, that money and other, you know, areas. What about if we looked into, instead of paying more MPs, more MCAs, nominations, because we are overwhelmed with what we have, like you said, but the wage bill is already overwhelmed. What about getting these extra resources, and if possible also slashing the salaries of some of these leaders?
Yeah, because 35%
yes.
also after being given to counties, of course, a lot of it is going still to the wage bill.
COVID-19 has already been biting the economy, so we need to continue slashing the salaries of some of, so that this money, because nobody is talking about our fresh graduates who are exiting our tertiary institutions every year in droves, in thousands, hundreds of thousands, graduating to nothing, just hovering around, wondering what happened to their lives. Some of them saying, where can I sell my degree? You know, a degree, I told you, has no retake.
Yes.
So, is that not something that needs immediate attention, instead of talking like, you know, talking about, you know, adding these member of parliament positions? We need to see what we can do with these guys. And I'll keep insisting for quite a long time until something happens with others who also are like-minded. That we are not a very rich nation, and we are getting there. We have shared prosperity, and when there's peace, Kenya will continue growing, especially when we have leadership like what you're seeing, top leadership today. So we need to start from somewhere. Let's get some stipends to our fresh graduates. Because then you've invested so much into them to get to that level. So then somebody who had their parents sell a piece of land to pay for their university and college fees, do not just finish and go back again to the small piece of, you know, an eighth on an acre that's left, and start bothering the parent, asking for, you know, some money for upkeep again. It's so, you know, it's so humiliating and so it's a desperate situation. So by this guy who has skills and knowledge, I'm not saying everybody that is unemployed. I'm saying these guys we've given loans through help, and they have graduated. They have a skill. Some of them can go into business. They can be the next, what do you call this guy who started Facebook? They can be the next.
Mark Zuckerberg.
They can be the next.
Yes.
So then you give them some little money. Whoever wants to go into business, say it like for 3 years, every month, something little, for the years, or until they get a job, whichever comes early. Some will just use that money again to not move around, writing CVs, looking for jobs. They'll get them. The ones. So that way we deflate that bubble. I mean, that time bomb of these guys, you know, they are just coming in numbers, and the economy is not able to absorb all those guys. So we need to invest something in them, because I don't think all of them, some may squander, but majority are not stupid. If you give them something little, because life is dignified, they will want to do something with their lives. So, I think that's an important issue, instead of talking about adding nominated members of parliament, things like, but they'll always be that voice, because then politicians are politicians. But then they need to be rebuked and rebuffed with such an issue that is already, where would the politician lead if then there was a bust up? You know, there was chaos, and the youth were, you know, running all over the place, and, you know, like the president said, it's a security issue. How will they go home when there's so much insecurity? People are desperate. They have gone to school, they're not working, they're not getting something. So I think that's also, because the BBI is an opportunity for us to talk about issues that bother Kenyans.
And still on the same, we had touched on the wage bill. How can we we've not had any civil society or people coming out and talking about, no, we need to tame the wage bill and the public debt the country has. There are no solutions yet, or people coming up and talking about the ballooning wage bill. And of course, it's going to be even higher after we've passed the BBI. How can we incorporate the wage debate in the BBI?
Well, the wage debate is
and of course the external debt, which is actually spiraling out of control.
First and foremost, expanding the legislature, the executive at the top, to get the positions of the prime minister and the deputy. That's important for the stability of the nation. If we pay just little extra money to get the country to be politically stable after every election cycle, so that there's no chaos, you know, that is worth it. Having said that, the expanded legislature, it's a no-no. It's a no-no. We cannot afford that.
Yes.
About the debt, again, I feel for our leaders, because then, the dollar is just gaining a lot against the shilling.
Yes.
So that tells you about our external debt, then we are likely to pay more. So perhaps we need to get to these quick, projects that can stir the economy, so that then the economy grows faster. But of course, when there is peace, of course, it will grow. Then so that then our shilling can start gaining value against the dollar, so that most of these loans, they are brought in dollars. So that, because then the financial experts can analyze this better. But every Kenyan knows that we are indebted in big amounts. So, but I believe the leadership at the top knows how to fix this, because then you don't need to inherit a country that is so much in debt to the level whereby we are scared. What will some of these guys who have given us money, what will they do if they fail to pay?
Yes.
But then I believe, because the minds at the top have come together, they can see what to do. The desperate situation will be whereby it's only one leader there. There's a lot of opposition, but the top minds in this country, the likes of the former Prime Minister, the likes of our President, the likes of the Wiper leader, and when you see them sitting together, the Deputy President, of course. So I believe a formula will come that will save Kenya, because then when they agree, it trickles down and Kenyans feel there is peace and we feel nice and we are happy.
Yes.
Other than when there is a lot of agreement all over the place.
And the leadership of counties via their organization CAF, the County Assemblies Forum, in a presser last week, they talked about a number of issues, and something that also came out of which also was in contention in the last general election was fighting corruption first, and integrity. Of course, that is sorted out in Chapter 6 of the Constitution, and of course the BBI was one of the issues that it was supposed to be looking at. But let's look at the education qualifications. They say they are going to the courts to make sure that the rule is that the MCAs and MPs, senators, should have a minimum of a degree. Do you support that? You have been a legislator before.
I've never been a legislator before, but I've worked in the county government.
Oh, the county government.
I'm working with the UN at the moment, but I've interacted with them. And I know what happens at the county governments, at least firsthand. So about qualifications, I believe the county governor should be somebody who is knowledgeable and who has invested. Because now, Kenya, there's free education. Because tomorrow, if you have somebody who has not gone to school, I'm not saying the rare cases, of street children and things. We have free primary education. Free secondary education, so that sometimes there's fee structure that comes that doesn't say that. But we need to have a county governor who at least is disciplined enough to have invested in gathering knowledge, growing knowledge, and who can be a good administrator, right? Having said that, I don't see any point in putting, stumbling blocks on matters education to the position of an MCA. As a matter of fact, we have so many learned, if it's about academic qualifications. Currently, we have so learned MCs. But again, we have somebody there at the ward who is so much vast in the matters, matters ailing the people in that ward, that may not have the privilege of a degree. Why do you want to bar that somebody and, of course, prevent voters in that region if they wanted to have that as their representative? So for me, I think let the degree remain the county governors and set the other people free and let wananchi elect whoever they want.
Okay, let's shift focus to the gender agenda. The governors here are talking about they need to be given freedom to choose their running mates. Women leaders talking about, they were actually very happy. I was at the Bomas of Kenya, and actually they clapped, and actually they were very happy that there are proposals that when a governor is perhaps a female, the deputy should be male and vice versa. But don't you see that we will be pulling on opposite direction when the governors here are talking about no, we need our democracy in Kenya, and the women leaders talking about no, this is something that we have looked forward to for years?
What about women have the right to clamor for what?
Yes, how are we supposed
gender
to...
balance.
the
then
gender
what
parity.
What about, you know, there's what comes first. My freedom should not infringe on yours.
Yes.
We should find a balance. What about then there's a county that said we don't want a deputy governor who's a woman. We want, at that particular point, we want some so and so, who's a male. Or if a certain county says we want both of them, ladies. So you see? Again, you will have infringed on the rights of so many people at a county level, voters. So, at the end of the day, I'll insist, let the voters decide. Let the women leaders, you know, submit their wishes and desires. And of course, gender balance is important. But then it should not come at the price of also infringing the rights of also, you know, wananchi in general. And again, there are voters, and there are many women voters. What about if there's and we have women governors, Governor Ngilu included, and Waiguru and the rest. I mean, for now. So, women voters are known to be slightly majority than male voters.
Indeed.
So it doesn't follow that if you don't have a female governor, you know, that role position, that women will never be deputy governors or governors. Because that constituency, the women vote, that constituency, it's a big number that is, if they want to have one of their own, they can go and campaign at that level, at that time, when the time comes. So women are able to elect one of their own. But sometimes a man will not just always, doesn't always follow that a male will elect a male, or a female will elect a female. I can elect a female leader.
So you want us, the
so
Kenyans, to decide, democracy?
Yeah, that's democracy. That's the basic rules of democracy. Let it do that. But then let's try to see what we can tweak to ensure gender balance.
Gender parity is
and affirmative action, you know.
The MCAs, they talked about, we are going to be meeting at the Bomas of Kenya so that we may have one concrete stand on the BBI report. But some of the things they were talking about during their county assemblies forum presser, wanting pension after just serving 5 years. The country cannot afford this money, and of course, I'm quite sure so many Kenyans would be disgruntled after working for 5 years. You still want a pension?
Well, what about a small gratuity?
No problem.
Somewhere,
pension.
A pension is a lifetime thing.
Yes,
that is it sounds like a long shot.
Yes,
and you're drawing from the same coffers that has almost nothing. So I think a gratuity will do. Perhaps, you know, in the interest of, when you look at the reality where we are, COVID-19 has battered our economy like so many other parts of the world. We are just recovering, you know, slowly. So the reality is we don't have that budget at the moment. So a pension after 5 years looks like a long shot, because then you've not been serving here for all your lifetime. You were somewhere before that. And even after the 5 years, you'll
be somewhere. Yes.
So if somebody is aged such that after those 5 years they have served, they may not go somewhere else, then it means they had worked somewhere else and they had a pension somewhere else. So a gratuity for serving for just one-off gratuity perhaps would do that. So that then we don't, everybody is saying, I want this to be paid this, because at the end of the day, this money is not like sand grains. It is just what we collect as a nation, and it's limited and finite.
Let's go back to the civic education, and let's now bring in the issue of COVID-19. We have been speaking here, but we haven't touched on anything on it. And remember, right now is the time that we need the real conversation, the real BBI conversation. And of course, we cannot do this via Zoom or like we are doing in previous meetings or something. How is it that we are supposed to achieve that, bearing in mind that we have to observe all the COVID-19 protocols? And this is something that actually has a timeline. Remember that the 2022 general elections are just around the corner. And especially when it comes to civic education. Somewhere you have to gather people.
All things are possible to them that believe. You know that.
We start by believing.
So, okay. Because then there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. Panaponia, pananjia. So you saw the other day, the president, when he was addressing the nation, he gave the latest, guidelines, and the latest, recommendation as far as this matter of COVID-19 is involved. So he banned political gatherings out there where people just are crowding, because then he's following his advisors based on science, which is a very good thing for us Kenyans. You know, science is not fiction. Science are facts. They are facts. This knowledge that has, you know, scientific knowledge is very important, because it's knowledge that we have acquired and it works. It's a revelation-based knowledge from God. So if you know this Panadol and it can cure headache, why argue about, So, but the president said that we can have boardroom, or town halls.
More or less like public participations, right?
Yeah, town halls are not to have, to enable very healthy discourses and discussions. So as long as there's still that window, instead of going in the open gatherings where people are crowded, some of them don't have masks. So that boardroom kind of, town hall meeting following the guidelines by the Ministry of Health, I think still at that level we can have the BBI civic education thing going. We can still have it. That's a window. That's why I said all things are possible. Yeah.
Let's look at the allocation of revenue. Of course, it has been a hot potato when it comes to the Senate, and we had a record, was it 11 times that it hadn't been passed? And we are talking about strengthening devolution in counties, and MCAs, of course, will have a much bigger plate when it comes to allocation of county funds. Remember, the national government, CDF, actually somebody moved to court to challenge it, and I was given orders that it should be illegal, because the national and the county governments are only the two institutions that are mandated by the 2010 Constitution to share revenue. And we here talking about some other packages, and even MCAs talking about, we need to know exactly how this 5% is going to be, the markup or the margin, how is it going to be calculated?
Well, politics, my brother, is local. So senators told me they were there for like 9 times attempting.
Yes, trying to pass the division of revenue. Yes.
You know, every senator from the 47 counties that we have was trying to to appear to represent the interests of his or her backyard county that elected him or her. So they may agree on matters when they want to raise their salaries, like in the parliament, they just agree.
Yes.
But when this now issue of resources, it's a very contentious, a very sensitive one. So I was not surprised when everybody stood there. I mean, when there was that tussle, back and forth. But at least at the end of the day, they ended up somewhere. So the issue of revenue allocation, I think if we have the guidelines. Basically, this is a percentage. Then how do we correct the areas that are marginalized? Equalization fund. You provide those provisions, but you have to stick to a central rule that, you start from here. Start from the non. Then if there are rising matters are rising, and, real issues coming up, then you can have, legal provisions for that. But about the formula, the exact formula and fact, we leave that to them. I mean, and the leadership of the country, because then it's a very contentious. It took the intervention of the leaders, two leaders, and the party leaders, for that matter to be resolved. So going back to the MCAs and the 5% at the world level, we need money at the world level.
Yes, they're arguing about the criteria of getting the 5%. What would it be a percentage of? Yes.
So it always starts with the population. Again, other weighting come, because then the size of the place. But you see, it could be a size of a place with one person.
Yeah, because even if they talk about 5% of the county's
the level
revenue
of development at that particular point in time, but we start with the population, because then these are the needs to the people. Then again, other matters come. If we are sharing something, and two oranges here. I have an half, you have nothing. Up front, I have half, and you have nothing. I mean, we can say, let's share one first. Then the rest, the thumb rule, let's share one. Then the rest, we can ask, let me, I mean, sometimes it's good to be, we are all human beings. and there are no lesser human beings, and life is dignified. There's no point in, taking so much when I know somebody somewhere has almost nothing, just because the law favors me, So let's the criteria be just like we do the revenue allocation at the national level. When you need to cascade this money from the county coffers now to the ward level, say 5%.
Yes.
Let the ultimate amount be dependent on the population in that ward first, then again correct other issues like the level of development at that point in time, and other issues like the size also, the weighted measure, so that at the end of the day everybody feels, there's fairness. Fairness is what we carry the day here.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'll revisit something that we had talked about, and that is the governors talking about we need to implement to the letter the 2010 Constitution, as we also looking into the BBI, because some of the proposals or additions that people want, they do not know that it's already in the 2010 Constitution. It's just that it has never been implemented. Case in point, let's look at the people living with disabilities. They had a press and talked about, no, we have been left out for quite a while. And the last time that they had a bill in Parliament, I hosted Senator Gertrude Musuruve here, and talked about so many years that the people with disability bill has never seen the light of day and is still gathering dust in Parliament.
You've just reminded me something. When I used to work with Governor Mutua as one of his senior officers in the first county government in Machakos, we are friends, but politics and friendship is different. It depends on interest. But at that time, the governor was briefing us on some of the things that we need to give a second thought. And he told us, you remember the Michuki rules?
Yes.
He told us, Maria Michuki told him one time when they were in the national government that they went to his office, I remember, if I'm not wrong, and Michuki said he had not invented any new rules. This was just a file, an act he picked from the shelf and implemented.
Yes.
So it's true, there are very good laws in the country, but we are not good at implementing them. But then again, there's no harm in reminding somebody, a leader or the nation, coming among themselves, the members of the country, the citizens, reviewing what we have, so that what is something is good and we had forgotten about it, we uphold it. But if it was good at that time, but now the dynamics are that it may not solve the needs of this current time, then we need to tweak it. Yeah, we have very good laws, gathering dust, like you say, in the shelves, that have never been implemented. That 20 Constitution has a lot of good things. But then again, we have an opportunity now called BBI, and it's popular. It has gathered momentum. So it will be nice to pick what is good at that place, in that document of 2010 Constitution that has not yet been implemented, and add it on here, because now this is the opportunity at hand. And it's a window, and good windows of opportunity don't last long. They close. So there's no harm in picking what is right within the 20 and bringing it to this table of discourse of the BBI, so that then we incorporate what is we feel meets the needs of the country now, and then perhaps leave the rest that we may not need now. Yeah.
Of course, when we have something of the magnitude of a BBI report or talk about constitution, we are likely to see new alliances. This is actually off the record, but we are likely to see new alliances with the BBI report. Do you think they are going to shape up the politics of Kenya at the end of the day? Bearing in mind,
my first name is Jeremiah. Jeremiah Lemuya. So Jeremiah was a prophet.
Yes.
I think they call him the wailing prophet. Can I prophesy something?
Yes, kindly do.
I may not be right, but I might see a point whereby in 2022 we may not have an election at the national level, because this is what I mean. What happens if we have, for instance, I don't want to be stoned because of this.
Yes.
But if we have the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister as President, the current Deputy President as our Prime Minister, Mheshimiwa Kalonzo, as, for instance, as Vice President.
It's purely an example.
And then Mheshimiwa Musalia, Deputy Prime Minister, and maybe Joe or somebody else, Deputy Prime Minister. Do you think there'll be, and then the President supporting them, do you think there'll be any other machinery that will start and the political that will, we may not have elections?
Yes, but okay, that's a long shot.
But you are right. But you are right. Political and dynamics always, play.
Yes,
when
something
like clouds,
in the country
change and come, shifting of alliances, those things will play. But the ultimate, at the end of it will be now the last stages of 2022, because then what happened also in 2013 and 2017. So shifting alliances will happen, but we might have surprise. Candidates at the very last moment that just carry all the way to the ballot at the national level. But I'll not be surprised if the way we are asking for an uncontested and all-inclusive BBI referendum, we might again agree at the top there. And mind you, amongst the 5 leaders I've mentioned here, have they not worked with one another before?
They have, all of them.
And what is not? All things are possible. All things are possible. To them that believe.
Of course, time is running out, but when you talk about the consensus meeting that there, of course, a number of people are holding some small groups. The following day you hear we have a presser, we need this and this, we are this group. What do you think we are able to achieve, and especially now that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handshake partner Raila Odinga are drumming up support and more so from the leaders? They're meeting the governors, of course, and the senior officials of county assemblies.
Well, if I got you right, what is happening in Ashpai is what we call broad consultations, and they are always healthy. I just to give an example. I'm a panelist in a United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change panel that deals with carbon capture and geologic storage. And you see, you may realize that there's physical boundaries, like between Kenya and Uganda. We might say we want to capture carbon dioxide, turn it into liquid and sink it somewhere in the border, Busia, Kenya. But the geologic rock does not obey political borders. So when we sink it there, you might have chaos. Uganda people asking this. Just like oil also. Oil within borders, there are physical borders. But oil within a country, the same formation down there, reservoir may be extracted to another country. So another country has a right to claim. So it's a very contentious issue that we are fronting to handle climate change. And then what we've been trained to know from the onset, as experts in that panel, is that this thing is about consensus building. You will never get your ultimate, 100% satisfaction or what you demand.
Yes.
So what they are doing there is very healthy for this country. It's called broad consultation, and I respect the wisdom of the president and the deputy. They had, they had the opportunity to just the BBI, the first bombers. The last bombers won.
Yes.
They had the opportunity to just say, let's go for referendum. And possibly would have won with some large majority. But then they saw no harm in increasing. Maybe it would have won with 80%.
And that would not have been building bridges.
Yes.
And
again,
that's the first
some
mandate.
Voices crying out there. So what they are doing is very healthy. And let them know. And of course I know they know. This cannot go on forever. At some point, because this is a popular project, at some point we need to seal it and finish up with this and move on with the country.
Final words. You are a politician, and of course the BBI is touching everyone, including politicians. What can you say as an overview of the BBI report? And now that we are looking for consensus from different quarters.
It's a good project for the country. Because first and foremost, the first articles address very pertinent issues that have been known to ail this country.
Yes.
And again, that was like a time bomb. If these guys, by God's grace, had not come together, we don't know what would have happened.
Yes.
Of course, we know what happens every 5 years election. And leaders outside our country, sometimes they may want to come intervene, the Kofi Annans, but they laugh at us, when they are back at the home. These
Let's
guys
do it ourselves.
So these homegrown solutions for Kenyans is the best way to go. Yes.
Indeed, I have been speaking with political strategist and also a climate change expert. You've talked about Jeremiah. Yeah, you are Jeremiah Lemmy.
And by the way, in 2022, God willing, if it finds us here,
yes,
I'll be vying for the governorship of Machakos.
Okay.
And one of my clarion, anchor projects will be to implement what Vijana call UB40 or the UBS, Universal Basic Salary for all the 20,000 Machakos graduates every year.
Okay.
Minimum of 10,000 for the next 3 years.
Okay.
If that time finds us here.
Indeed, thank you so much for making time and your insight on the issue that we have been dealing with. And of course, we have been trying to build consensus. Of course, so many issues have been brought about by the BBI, and some quarters are talking about we also need this added, we also need this, some other arguing. This one is kind of will take the country backward. But at the end of the day, we need to build consensus so that we may have one Building Bridges Initiative report. My name is Ben Troy Njue. Thank you so much for watching, and on behalf of everyone who has made this a success, including Lucy Maura, who is our sign language interpreter, good afternoon.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Nothing, pumpkin.
Umwangalia ukaona hata sasa hivi kuna kitu ambacho anaficha. Men will always have something to hide.
What are you doing?
We have to talk.
You scared the hell out of me.
You used me to get Mrs. Hortensia's head all messed up. And now you are hiding so you can avoid giving me what you promised me.
Can't you understand that I'm really tense?
El paraíso
In love with Ramon.
The road to the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations brings us home to another exciting qualifier where Harambee Stars host the Colasantes of Comoros Wednesday, the 11th of November at Kasarani.
And that goal! And it is a goal! Coming up exactly 34 minutes, Johanna Omolo.
Watch it live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 at 7 p.m. as we continue to showcase Africa's best on your true sports partner.
Next on.
See me yummy man, he me really yummy man. See me yummy man, he me really yummy man. Say ooh.
African kings and